I am tired. I am tired of male cowardice. Male cowardice. I know of all the things, the black girl magic gets on my nerves, the orangutans make my skin crawl, but the male cowardice. You see, we wouldn't even have all of this black girl magic and feminazi warfare and lawfare in this country. We wouldn't even have all of that. We would not even have all of that if we didn't have an epidemic of male cowardice. And this entire Fani Willis, Nathan Wade entanglement, all it did was demonstrate on so many levels that male cowardice is one of the main problems that we're contending with today in this country. And I want to take the time to tell you why. Now, there are so many realms, right, where we can see and find male cowardice. And don't get me wrong, I don't want men to think that I am ganging up on them. That's not what this is. In fact, if you know anything about me, I'm on y'all's side. I really am. But I seem to be in the minority here because most of the women who have the loudest voices in the public square are the disrespectful, male hating feminists, right? Everybody wants to talk about misogyny, right? But misogyny is not really a problem. It's misandry, the hatred of men. To me, that is the problem. Women hating men and disrespecting men, that is actually socially acceptable now. And I believe that I do my fair share of holding women accountable because hardly anyone in the culture ever holds women accountable. That's just a fact. We're seeing it played out right now. But tonight, as it relates to this Fani Willis, Nathan Wade debacle, I have to examine a few places, just a few, not a lot, but just a few places where we have to contend with male cowardice because once we identify it, then and only then can we begin to do something about it. So, while I was preparing for this show tonight, okay, I normally, before I prepare a show, sometimes I make some phone calls, right? I got to get my people, my inner circle on the line to first, I got to vent. Right? Because before I vent to y'all, I got to vent to my people and really get it out so that I'm calm when I present to y'all. So I normally I'll have these conversations on the phone and I'll throw these ideas out to my people to help them, or they help me kind of think through my presuppositions and the conclusions that I'm coming to. And in preparing for tonight's show, I just came up with just a few places where I was able to identify male cowardice. So the first one on my list, oh, don't tell me I got my papers all out of order. I did. The first one on my list is in the pulpit. Okay. In the pulpit, since I'm a content creator that's a Christian and I create Christian content for a uniquely, mostly Christian audience, I was like, you know what? I might as well just start there. The male cowardice that I have observed, one of the places, it is in the pulpit. And you guys, it is really bad there. It is really bad in the pulpit. Now, to be clear, we need to keep in mind that the vast majority of evangelical pulpits, they are false churches, right? So of course you're going to see male cowardice in those pulpits. But there are several theories as to why male cowardice is so high in these pulpits. And I believe a lot of it has to do with their manufactured, built in audience. Let me explain what I mean. See, if you are a false church, right, that means that everything that you do, it's man centered. And when I say man centered, I don't mean man as in males, man centered as in referring to mankind in general, just our humanness, not males, man centered as opposed to being Christ centered. These churches are not Christocentric, right? They're not centered on Christ and Christ alone. And the reason why I want to address this part first is because I was watching, you guys, I was watching the lead attorney's live stream the other day. I just want to send a shout out to the lead attorney. Mucho gusto, right? Like, lead attorney is one of the top live streamers on YouTube right now. A brilliant lawyer, just top level. Just type TLA in the chat if you have ever caught any of the lead attorney's live stream coverage of this specific Fani Willis case. First of all, lead attorney is a trip. Okay. He is freaking hilarious. And he's probably one of the most entertaining live streamers on YouTube right now. So I have to give him his props, give him a shout out from one entrepreneur to another. The lead attorney is the man in the YouTube space. Now, with that said, I want lead to come to Jesus, y'all. Okay, y'all be sure to mention lead in your prayers, because my heart's desire on a serious tip is for lead to come to Jesus, right? So that I can call him my brother in the Lord. But let me tell you, not only has the lead attorney done an amazing job breaking down all of the legalese of this Fani Willis case for the common man to understand, just like people like you and I, right? He has done something else by pointing out something that made me know that not only is the Lord working, because you know the Lord, he is always working, but the Lord is allowing the unfruitful deeds of darkness to be exposed so much that even those outside of the household of faith can see the unbiblical shenanigans. And they're like, I don't want any part of whatever that is. What I'm seeing and hearing out of these churches, if that's what's going on in there, I'm not going. I don't want to be nowhere near or associated with any of that. So on the lead attorney show, he played on his show the compilation of unbiblical bootleggers that I showed you guys last week on my show. And do y'all know what Lead said? Lead was like, he played it and he was like, listen, if this is what y'all are doing in these churches, he was like, I'm not going to that. He was like, I'm not going to that. Like, y'all, there were most definitely spiritual implications as to why the lead attorney was like, this is trash, right? And not only that, lead is like, this is trash because something, I don't see this in the Bible, but more than that, as a man, you guys, as a real man, he's not going to sit in a church and listen to another man, and especially a woman for that matter, pander to obvious sinful inclinations of women in their presence. Like, real men, they are not going to do that. They're going to get up and they're going to walk out, or they're going to be like, oh, that's what y'all do over there. Oh yeah, that's a simp fest. I'm not signing up for that. And so in these churches, since the main audience of these fake churches are silly women laden with sins, these pimp preachers and what I call the race trade and Hebrew heretics, right? They have to cater to those women to keep the money flowing. You guys, men are not packing out these dens of Satan. Men are not flocking in droves to go and listen to this foolery. So the speakers in these churches, I dare not call them pastors, we'll just call them speakers. These are blind guides. These are what the book of Jude calls fruitless trees in late autumn. These men, they have to tailor the message, make it very man-centered in order to stir the emotions of their core audience, which is women, because these are not churches of the Lord Jesus. These churches do not belong to Christ. So I want you guys to watch again. I know it's going to hurt. Just do your best to try to get through it. But I want you to see in this clip that I'm about to show, if you can point out the male cowardice. Take a listen to this.
I think we have a new black history figure that will go down in the history books. Her name happens to be Fani Willis. That woman has a backbone. She said, I came running down here. At some point, you just can't let lies continue to be said about you. Amen. It's important for us to have pride in who we are.
Everything is not equal in America, and there are often smoke screens like Fani Willis's personal decisions to try to detract from the facts of the case.
You can talk about whether or not out of marriage, you can do all that stuff. Two consenting adults. They couldn't prove, they have not proved that there was any financial benefit.
If I've never been a proud black man before in my life, I've been a proud black man this week. She ran to the courtroom, took that stand, and put that whole situation in order.
Ooh. She killing it, ain't she? They can't do nothing. Fani Willis, they were talking about she was using a man. I don't need no man to take care of me. That woman, they can't do nothing with her. I love my black women. I ain't gonna even lie. Yeah, I don't care what they say.
Every time a black woman ascends into some type of leadership position, what they try to do to discredit them is talk about saying they're promiscuous, they're over-sexualized. They had it coming with how they dress, with how they spoke, with how they look. As black women, they will use your sexuality against you.
This is an America that will have you in your office and make you run down to the courthouse because you're tired of them talking about you. Run down in your red dress with your red bottom shoes. As the district attorney say, no, I'm ready to testify now. Because if you're gonna talk about me, no, you're gonna talk to me. They was planning on talking about Fani Willis, but they weren't planning on talking to Fani Willis, and they found out what black men have known, that the worst thing you ever want to do is have a face-to-face confrontation with a black woman who's fed up. I was raised by a black woman. I'm married to a black woman. My wife birthed a black woman, and the last thing I ever want to do is talk to any one of them when they fed up. Because that thing about the angry black woman, it is absolutely true. And they got reasons to be upset, because to be black and a woman in America and to be sane is to be in a constant state of rage.
I support all black women all the time, but I want y'all to know, black women, y'all hold it down for us. All the Republicans and white folks are saying she had nasty attitude and all that, yeah. But you know what? When she leaned back in that chair, she said, I'm not the one on trial. They are. I said, you know what? That's all we got.
And Fani Willis got on the witness stand, and with that Inglewood swag from California, she did her thing with that black girl magic. She stood up to the prosecutors and the defense and read their rights and let them understand that as much as you want to prosecute me, this trial ain't about me. This trial is about they who have tried to steal the election, and she wore them out on stand. Nothing like a sister that got it going on. She had hood swag, but she was smart and brilliant with her legal mind. She was in trouble, but she turned that whole situation around, and they want to talk about Fani Willis and say she's nothing but an angry black woman. Brothers, we need to stand up and protect our sisters and let them know she ain't no angry black woman. Her only problem is that she's a black woman in America that stood up to white America and outperformed her white male, and only a brother who have toxic masculinity will have a problem with a strong black woman. So I looked up and said, you go, girl, you do your thing. Go ahead with your black magic, your black girl magic. And she wore them out, and she turned that whole situation around. She was so awesome. They were supposed to bring her back on Friday. They said, we ain't gonna touch her, leave her alone. We gonna win this case. And the good news is that Fani Willis had redeemed herself, all because she stood up for herself. She was in trouble, but I got a sticky suspicion and a holy hunch she was not in that courtroom by herself, because the Holy Ghost used that black girl magic and let her do her thing, and she found herself in some legal trouble. And somebody today, I don't care what kind of trouble you in, if you hook up with the Holy, God has a way of bringing you out of trouble. Do I got somebody in the house today that can testify that God will bring you out?
Whatever her relationship status is, ain't nobody business. Y'all quiet. Ain't nobody business.
You talk about my relationship, how much cash I keep in the house, who was living with me at the time. What's that got to do with a man stealing an election and you using my relationships that has none of your business to try to discredit me and try to say I'm not fit to try this case?
They would try to act like black women can't have cash on them. And I know being around black women, y'all carry cash in some strange places. I seen you reach in your bra. She said, I got this money through my blood, sweat, and tears. Flag on the play.
Y'all, the whole clip would have been one long flag on the play, so I didn't wanna overdo it. But I'm so thankful for you guys in the comments who can clearly see what this foolishness is. So many of you made some very insightful comments. Victoria Powell is like, listen, this is terrible. Okay, sin is terrible. I agree, sister. We also had Bella Ring said, this is why men have left the church in droves. I'm glad she spelled it church. I know exactly what she meant. This is embarrassing. Shout out to you, sister. Sister Sonia Aldridge, thank you so much for that super chat. She says, weak men make hard times. If that is not wisdom, I don't know what is. That's precisely what this show is essentially about. It is about the cowardice of men. And this is just one of the places that we have to contend with this male cowardice. Just to engage a little bit with that clip. First of all, I want to know, y'all, who is Fani Williams? Like, I don't know. The last speaker seemed like he was struggling a little bit with this little lisp and some pronunciation, but I don't know who Fani Williams is. So we're just gonna assume that he meant Fani Willis. Bless his heart. Bless his little weak coward heart. But the first few clips, you had one gentleman say, we not equal in this country. How sad is it when the men who are supposed to lead in our community in 2024 can formulate their mouths to say that we are not equal? As if we don't get our inalienable rights from God, as if we're not image bearers created in the image of God. Like, if you have a biblical worldview, you don't make statements like this unless you subscribe to some sort of Black inadequacy. That is the only thing that drives you to spew this poison and victimhood from a pulpit, right? These men were unable to declare biblical truth. It's almost as if they never even heard it. It's almost as if the testimony of scripture has nothing to say with what brought Fani to that witness stand in the first place. It's not because there was some sort of prosecutorial mistake. And I'm not an attorney, so don't get it twisted, right? I'm speaking with this legal confidence because I just be watching the lead attorney and he just empowers you to make you think you know more than you do. But it wasn't as if we were witnessing some sort of prosecutorial mistake. This woman was engaged in an affair with someone who worked for Fulton County, someone that she hired who is also married. And for some strange reason, these pastors are unable to just stand on the authority of scripture and declare that what she was doing is wrong. One, because they're weak, and they figured the women in my congregation, if I speak the truth, they will put my head on a platter and they will be upset. So I'm just going to go all out. I'm just going to pander and I'm going to celebrate because they love Fani. So I got to act like I love Fani too. You also heard a few of them say that they were proud, right? They were proud because a woman showed out, right? Like, now the stereotype of Black women not knowing how to act, not knowing how to conduct themselves in professional settings or just social settings in general, when they don't get their way, they show out. And you have individuals who are supposed to be preachers of the word, shepherds, pastors, men who are supposed to be, these are all assumptions, I don't believe any of them are, but supposed to be called by God to lead the people of God, you have them saying that they are proud because she showed them. Like the woman showed out, and these are the aspects that you're celebrating. Then we also heard them say, she's killing it. They can't do nothing with her. You're right. She's an uncontrollable wild orangutan. Nobody can do nothing with her. That's how we got ourselves here in the first place. And then they also mentioned, one of them was like, they can't do nothing with her, and he actually loves it. I was like, either this man is abused by the orangutans in his life, or he is just such a weak coward that he has succumbed to this abuse and it's normalized to him. Like he's been living with orangutan black girl magic energy for so long that he doesn't know any other way to be. He doesn't even know that there are women out there that look at that with stank face like, ooh, that's not good. We don't act like that. Like, why are you celebrating this? I'm confused, and I feel sorry for the young women in his congregation when they rise up and he say something they don't like, or they get into some kind of disagreement, and the young chick in his congregation rise up like she gonna punch him in the chest. Like, what you gonna do? You've already created an environment where women can show out and act like this, and you say that you like it because we have reason to be. Something Sister Susie Q said in the chat, I think I started. Sister Susie Q said, your immutable characteristics are not an excuse to be full of rage. That is such a wise statement. Thank you so much, Sister Susie, for saying that. Like this blackness, this melanin, it is an immutable characteristic. You can't control it. There's nothing you can do to get more of it or to change it. It's how God made you. It is immutable. It is unchangeable. That's what immutable means. It does not give you a license to act a fool and to be full of rage just because you have melanin. Like, what is wrong with you? And then the last thing, one of the really, really weak ones of the bunch, he was more of the bigger cowards. He said, we gotta hold down women all the time, because y'all hold us down. I'm like, first of all, who's the us? Because it's becoming real, real rare to meet these black women that he's talking about that's holding anybody down other than themselves. Now, they're holding the culture down. Definitely. They're holding the culture down. They are holding the culture back. They are creating a whole mystique around a certain group of women that nobody wants to deal with. But in terms of holding someone down, I'm assuming he means in the colloquial sense, like, she's ride or die and she's always had my back. I'm assuming that's what he meant, but I'm like, no, these breeds of orangutans are out for self. They only care about their needs, their wants, and what's important to them. They don't really care about you. But we actually heard these pulpit pimps. One particular, a man who they claim to be pastors, celebrate, and one in particular got excited talking about black girl magic. Now that is so insane to me. Like, how are you a Christian even co-signing to the concept of black girl magic? Like, now I'm not shocked that a skin idolater, a melanated Jerome Crow Marxist thinks this way. But now we have to add manipulative co-signer of witchcraft and sorcery to the list. It's bad enough that you're already a skin trader and a race trader and an unbiblical bootlegger. Now you're co-signing and trying to syncretize black girl magic with the Holy Spirit. Several of these pastors who are supposed to know the Bible. They're supposed to believe the Bible. They're supposed to teach the Bible. They are actually celebrating the shameful behavior of a woman who, under the guise of black girl magic, exhibits a stank Yes, emphasis on the NK, haughty, boastful, arrogant, sexually immoral, and disrespectful demeanor for the watching world to see. And you wonder why our young women act the way that they do, and why they are the least marriageable demographic. Are you shocked and confused why that's a statement of fact? Like, what happened to teaching women to be virtuous, to be chaste, keepers at home? I don't know, loving their own husbands, as Titus 2 admonishes us. Why is she being elevated to history book status? And these clips are relatively older. They've aged about a week or so. Fani is still going on a tour, a celebratory tour, where women and everybody else in Fulton County and Atlanta Metro is celebrating as if we are winning. Are you kidding me? Y'all, these men, they stood in a pulpit and they preached this poison. They preached this poison. And because of the lack of accountability in these churches, this is why these churches are full of mostly women, and they are the least marriageable demographic because they are coddled by cowardly men who are so weak and so afraid of all of that fake bravado and black girl magic that instead of just not leaving any room for such behavior to flourish, they allow it. They celebrate it, and then they teach these women that they have no choice but to be this way because they are black. I'm a black woman. Was it Tiffany hearing you say, because you are black? You black. Like, she was going to make sure you did not leave that trustee meeting knowing that you was black. And you black, and not just that, you black and you live in America. So these men are too weak to put their foot down and say that type of behavior should never be tolerated. And it's one of the main reasons why, you guys, that the black family is in shambles. The black family is in shambles. It is in utter ruin because the men who are supposed to be the convicting voices of truth and righteousness, they're supposed to teach the women that this is not okay, but they're teaching their women that it's okay to be rebellious. It's okay to think you're equal to a man. It's okay to show out in court. These are the generation of men. I'm going to go ahead and say it. They were raised by Big Mama. And if they don't say this foolishness in their churches will be empty. Their churches will be empty. Their beds at home will be empty. I am so sick of this mess. I don't know what to do. I was going in the lead attorney's chat because to hear someone outside of the household of faith play this compilation of clips, and to hear him sit there with like, ain't no way. He's like, this is what y'all doing in these churches? He was like, nah, I ain't gonna be able to do it. He was like, nope. He just, on this face value, it's not that he was missing some super spiritual overtone. He could hear this filth coming out their mouths, and he was like, something's wrong with this. This is not okay. This is shameful. Point I was making is this is why no one wants to date us. And what I was going to say is this is why my 14-year-old, he don't even have like a life outside of this house. And he's like, I'm going to Japan to find my wife. Like, he already knows Japan. I don't know nobody in Japan. I don't speak Japanese, but Mom, can I take Japanese? Because I like that culture over there, and I want to find my wife over there. He's 14. Right? No one is rushing to marry this. No one is rushing to marry this creation, this spawning of this black girl magic woman. Nobody's rushing to marry that. The attitude, the disposition, the overall character, and the way that we're carrying ourselves and presenting ourselves to the world, it's not good. This is not good at all. Something is wrong. Something's wrong with the mindset. All you have to do is ask any man that is out on the dating market right now. And if he's brave enough to tell you the truth, he will just come right out and say, y'all heifers are a piece of work. And he's like, I am done subjecting myself to y'all's foolishness. Y'all, these men are done. And I don't know why I have to be the one to say it, because your life is telling you that these men are done. They have whole segments of YouTube where these men are talking about being done because of this. And here you see in a church, the foolishness that men are done with being celebrated and encouraged. You guys, the only ones who are celebrating this foolishness are other silly, disillusioned women who don't have anything to lose, right? They'll celebrate that all day. They're like, listen, I hit the wall 5 different times. I'm like, well, I ain't got nothing else to do but show out, right? And then the male cowards who were probably raised by one of these unruly orangutans, or they have some sort of vested interest in keeping you unruly and rebellious because it benefits them financially. How sad of a day that we've arrived to. You guys, these men, by enabling and allowing this foolishness to continue, they're not helping us. This is not support. Like, I don't want this kind of support. You are leading these women down a path toward destruction. You don't have our backs when you co-sign to this mess. This is harmful. Worse than that, this is wicked.